Hello everybody, and welcome to Kalyn's Corner, a new segment of Divided by a Wall. This episode of Kalyn's Corner, we're going to talk to Hollywood. And by Hollywood I basically mean anyone in the TV industry or the film industry or mainstream media. We're talking to the influential media of the world, but specifically to the most influential, which is Western world media. That being said, I would like to implore Hollywood to watch the show Gaycation. The show Gaycation essentially follows Ellen Page and her best friend Ian, who are both gay, around the world as they travel to different places and look into the LGBT lifestyles, laws, politics, views, and just everything about that community in different countries across the globe. The first place they go to is Japan, which has like this really great scene for this LGBT community there, but it's not accepted at all by society. There is no marriage equality, and people who are gay, lesbian, bi, transgender, pan, whatever their sexuality may be along the spectrum or gender, they're always repressed because they aren't accepted by their society. They only have this small form of escape that they're able to go to. And then they go to Brazil, which was honestly just stunning in the most awful, atrocious ways. I couldn't believe everything I was seeing as far as how bad it extends to there. They have such a high rate of specifically LGBT murders, and they freaking talk to a serial killer of LGBT people. So this man that they talk to, who's a serial killer of LGBT people, was a former law enforcement officer. And he said even on the job, he would specifically, with his buddies, target LGBT people when he'd see them on the street. Like if he saw them walking across the street, he would keep going and not stop. Like, what kind of mindset is that? Apparently he's also been contracted to kill specifically LGBT people, and then Ellen and Ian revealed themselves to be gay to him, and they were like, would you rather us be dead? And he basically just said yes. And I couldn't believe that a person like that exists that would rather have me dead if I loved someone of the same gender and that was their sole reason for wanting me dead. How is that okay? When you have in a country people who are so strongly thinking this way, and you have people in power who are so strongly thinking this way, it makes it so much easier for the general population to swing one way or the other in their views of these people, and that can lead to anything from just general dissent upon the community and, verbal abuse to violent abuse to killing. And then they went to Jamaica, and there were all these awful, awful views of the LGBT community. There were basically like, you couldn't be out unless you wanted to have abuse happen to you and you wanted to be looked down upon by everyone else. It baffles me that this is the way it is around the world, and it's not that I was, blind to this. I knew it was different across the world, but when you live in the Western world where things can often seem, not necessarily are, but seem progressive, it's so easy to forget and at the very least have such hope that everyone else is changing as well and becoming more progressive and accepting. It's so easy to fall into that like blissful ignorance sort of thing where you forget that there's these awful, atrocious things happening to others out there who are just the same as you. Now that being said, this all leads me to an actual point of why I'm saying Hollywood and really everyone should watch this show because of how eye-opening it is. I am trying to say you should watch this show because it demonstrates how, even though we may be progressive, or we may be trying to portray a more idealistic world where sexuality or gender, etc. does not matter. It doesn't change the fact that the product you are creating and putting out into the world is going into these places that have such negative views still on this community. If you have more positive storylines and you show that there isn't just a means of an end being death for these characters and these people and these stories and the way you report them in the press, etc., if you have a more positive outlook on it than that, and you don't treat them the same as any other character who is a majority and not the minority, you are hopefully helping to change or at least counteract that extremely negative perspective that people have on this community. I can imagine that serial killer from Brazil watching a show where a gay character dies and being like, yep, what I'm doing is right, because look, they'll just end up dying. Like, that's all their end is just death. And you're doing such a negative thing in your own media, you're allowing for that negative outlook that's already upon this community to flourish. I'm just saying you're frankly being ignorant if you aren't taking the time to understand the type of impact your storylines and your characters and your press can have on other parts of the world. But even in our own world, which may be so seemingly progressive, but actually isn't, because laws are being put into place every day that are these lovely little religious freedom laws that allow people basically to discriminate against the LGBT community just because it goes against their religion. Now, I'm not saying every minority or LGBT storyline or any sort of coverage for them in the press has to have some beautiful happy ending or completely positive non-critical outlook on them. All I'm saying is that your media has an impact on a nation or even the world's perspective on something, just as any politician or anyone in the public eye has. It's your responsibility as creators to know the type of impact that your content will have on the rhetoric and the outlook and the perspective of any sort of community that you portray within your product. Specifically for LGBT people, please, Hollywood, go watch Gaycation and understand just how awful some people have it, and also see the good that some people have and maybe be inspired by that. But understand that what you're putting out there can help influence, whether for the better or for the worst. So know what you're talking about and know who you're putting your product out to, or who it could potentially go out to, and how that could change or alter or perpetuate their internal dialogue. That's all I'm saying. So Hollywood, watch Gaycation. LGBT fans deserve better, because we deserve more than to have people who portray the community in mainstream media dying every week. Multiple people of the community dying every week. For the past month, we've had, what, 6 die? How insane is that? Every time I see it, I shouldn't be surprised, but every single time I am, because I'm just like, how can this continuously be happening? How can these people who represent the community just constantly be killed off as though they're nothing? LGBT fans deserve better than to see that as their only portrayal. LGBT fans deserve better, because LGBT fans are real people too. Why shouldn't they be able to see that there can be a happy ending out there? LGBT fans deserve better than to have media that perpetuates the negative rhetorics and outlooks on their community. I've seen so many people say that their homophobic parents or what have you looked at the stories they watched when they were younger and trying to figure themselves out, or even now the ones they watched as they're trying to figure themselves out, and they see the character that their kid loves, and maybe they do or don't know that they identify with them, who is of the LGBT community, die, and their parents are like, yep, they got what's coming to them. And that's in our Western world. You're telling someone that they deserve death because of who they love. As long as any relationship is consensual and full of meaningful love, where's the fault in that? I don't see how there can be one. Yet so many people are fueled by when people of this community are oppressed. And that's why LGBT fancies are better. Because the community is still oppressed, no matter how progressive the world may be. And that needs to change. Now that that's all been said, I just want to do a little wrap up and say a couple shout outs. First, I want to get a shout out to my friend Austin, who wrote this awesome post about how they were affected by Lex's death. Nicola Choi, or Nicola Choi, pardon the pronunciation. She's this fantastic writer who's been writing about the whole situation on The 100 and talking about all minorities, not only the LGBT community, and how awful that show is doing right now, which is what my next video is about. She is always speaking up for people and always defending others and, you know, speaking out against those who are being just dumb and ignorant. She deserves all the love in the world, and she was having a rough time lately and ended up in the hospital, so if you could send her some love, that'd be extra wonderful. You should send her love anyways, even if she wasn't hurting right now. She's absolutely fantastic. So please go read all her stuff, send her some messages on her Tumblr, on her Twitter. She, I think, would really appreciate it. Shout out to Megan, who I shouted out in my last long talk video, who sexyyuglyy on Tumblr. She also now has a YouTube. She's so great, so fun. I relate to her story a lot, and everyone should check her out. She's super hilarious, she's super relatable, you know, she's just kind of like a real person, so everyone should go check out her channel and check out her Tumblr and whatnot. She's really awesome. Also, someone you should check out is Commander Oswald on Tumblr, who is apparently a filmmaker in mainstream media Hollywood industry and is speaking out about the LGBT fancies are better movement, and they have all this insider knowledge, which I think is really fascinating. They recently came out with a story about Shauna from The 100 and an interaction with fans that was rather fishy, and that I feel needs to be heard by a lot of people. It's quite an interesting read. So I'll be sure to link that Tumblr in there. They're also just really great, really supportive, super helpful. You can go talk to them about basically anything and it seems like they'll respond. So that's great. It's wonderful. Go check out Commander Oswald. Also, there's a bunch of other new YouTubers who I've been watching, and I'll hopefully be able to talk about them in future videos. I don't want to spend a million years talking about all of them, but I'll make sure our subscriptions can come up on our channel, and you should check every single one of them out because they're all super great in their own special ways. And as always, let's talk about the lovely Elizabeth Bridges. What an angel that professor is, but also not an angel because she's super sassy and whatnot. But she is just still so supportive of the movement, writing all these fantastic things that is about not only the 100, but the movement in general, media in general, their perspective on this community, the history of this community. She's got such a great outlook, and it's wonderful to see that someone in academia has this really great outlook on the whole situation. So everyone should go check out Elizabeth Bridges' blog, her Twitter, anything of hers, go check out Elizabeth Bridges. I'll make sure to link it all here. Now, that being said, that is all for this time on Kalyn's Korner, and I will see you next time on the other side of the wall.